Hey, welcome to Flight Test. I'm Alex, and this is Stefan.
What's up, guys?
And today we're talking about simulators.
Yes, indeed.
So oftentimes we are always asked, what is the easiest and best way to learn to fly multi-rotor, specifically FPV? And recently we did a video on how to fly line of sight. That's where you're flying the quad from a third-person perspective with no FPV. Right. But we wanted to dive in a little bit on FPV, and right off the bat, the first thing you need to know about learning to fly FPV is simulators.
That's right. This episode's brought to you by Lucas Studios, who's actually the creator of LIFTOFF. So we actually got in contact with them to talk about doing an episode for LIFTOFF because we believe in the product. So we were just really excited to work with them on this specific episode.
And when I heard about that, I was super excited because, like I said, I've been playing this simulator since before it was out, and I know Ian plays it, TJ plays it, we all play it, and there's about a small handful of other simulators out there, but this is definitely one of our favorites. So we were super excited to work with Lugos. And one of the reasons why we love this so much is because of the community feedback that they take and receive and also implement into their software. So they're always looking into the FPV community for feedback, and they implement it directly into their game. They got a lot of feedback on their transmitter calibration screen. And one of the upcoming updates, they're streamlining their calibration screen to make it easier for new people to calibrate their transmitter. And it's not just technical stuff like that, it's all the way down to how the quad feels in the air, the physics of the game. They're always keeping an open mind, and they're always refining their product. The best thing about it is that it's an active game. It has an active studio behind it. They're constantly coming out with updates based upon what the community is mentioning to them. Recently, like within the past month or so, they've come out with 3 huge updates. Right. And it comes with everything from new quads, new motors, new stuff like that, to the calibration screen stuff that we talked about. So they're not only doing interface stuff, they're doing gameplay stuff, even technically new content. You're getting new quadcopters, and speaking of which, you can get our Flight Test Vortex 150. Shameless plug. You can give it a try in this simulator, which is pretty cool. Yeah. We love that thing. It flies great.
Yeah, and one of the other big things that they just came out with, which is kind of a big thing that they've been working with in the past, is that when your quad hits something in a simulator, sometimes it'll just get stuck in a tree or get stuck in a wall, right? So it's not super realistic. They've actually started to figure all that out, and they finally came out with an update where it's way more realistic. When you hit a wall, it bounces off and comes back, which is a big thing that they've had issues with in the past. One of the things that we want to note is that they also have an experimental branch. So what that means is essentially they come out with an update and it doesn't go directly to the public mainframe yet. So what they do is they put it into their test server with their experimental branch, and then they get all the feedback from the community to essentially fine tune and hone all the little issues that may be happening with it, and then once they fine tune it, then they bring it to the public version for everybody else to have fun viewing and playing.
Now, a lot of you are probably wondering what it takes to be able to play this game. Obviously, you need a computer. The computer requirements are actually not that much in terms of gaming computers these days. It does require, a little bit of a graphics card and stuff like that, but it's nothing like, a AAA game or anything like that. So if you want to find out more about the system requirements for this simulator, you can check the link below to see if your system would run this or not. And it obviously depends on there's different graphics settings. You can go high performance or low performance, etc. Other than that, the only thing that you need is a transmitter or a gaming controller of some kind. And if you're already a hobbyist, there's a good chance you might have one that will work. And the cool thing is, if you're not in the hobby and say you don't have a transmitter, because a lot of times these can be expensive, you can actually play this with any kind of game controller, from a PS4 controller to an Xbox controller, which is awesome. And it's also a great opportunity for people who haven't experienced the hobby to give it a try and see if it's right for them, because I know a lot of the gamers out there who haven't tried FPV would absolutely love it, because it's an amazing hobby and it's a great way to practice to actually get out there with a real quad and get in the air and fly in the air like a bird for the first time.
So in the actual simulator, you have different game modes, right? So one of the big ones is the tutorial mode, which is really cool because it actually teaches you how to fly in the simulator.
Yes.
So it's like a beginner educational situation where now if you've never flown before, it shows you how.
Yeah, and it's going to teach you the basics of the transmitter and the quad. So basically what the sticks do, how the right stick correlates to pitch and roll, and how the left stick is your throttle and yaw. That's if you're flying mode 2. Depending on where you live, there's a couple different controller modes or transmitter modes that you can fly. We fly mode 2.
Exactly. And then you got free flight, which this is kind of a situation where you can go in and just hang out with the quad. You can fly it around. There's no gates. There's no races. You can pick whatever level you want and just kind of have fun with it and do whatever you feel like you need to do to get comfortable in the simulator.
Yeah, and that's personally my favorite game mode because when I go out and fly on my own free time, I typically just go to a park and just rip it and just have fun and go exploring and just fly. The sensation of flight is what I'm looking for. So free flight mode is definitely my favorite, but I know like Ian, he's a racing kind of guy.
Right.
And speaking of racing, the next mode is race mode. And that's where you actually have full race courses set up and you can race through them as fast as you can. You get timed and you can hone your skills so you can go out to a real race and see if you can take home the gold.
So, in speaking of race courses, is actually a part where in the simulator where you can actually build your own track. So you can put whatever buildings you want, whatever gates you want, everything and anything in between as well, which is really cool. So then you can really hone your skills in the racing side of things and really put your own spin on what a track to look like.
Not only can you build them, but you can also share them online with the LIFTOFF community. So there's been times when I was playing online and I come into this crazy custom track and it is just like absurd. There's like gates like in the sky, there's like skyscrapers and like floating islands and stuff, and like there's a guy, obviously the guy who built the track, and he's like setting record times just like ripping through it. I don't even know where to go. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun to be had. You can build a track, you can challenge your friends to race you at it. It's a great way to play online and share your experiences with other people in the community.
That's right. And then on that note, you're looking at playing with friends, right? So they have a multiplayer mode, which is really cool because now you can invite your friends, invite your family, whoever you want. Maybe you're playing on guys online that you've never even met before. They're racers, they're free flight guys, and now you can really challenge yourself to see how you measure up to other people in the community.
Yeah, and there's actually, I know a lot of organizations like MultiGP, for example, they have like standardized race courses, and you can actually find those on LIFTOFF, so you can practice your skills on real life race courses, which is pretty cool.
So one of the other cool things about single player mode is that you have a workbench mode. So you can go in and you can try all these different frames, all these different motors, different props, different setups, different VTXs, cameras, all this kind of crazy stuff.
Yes.
And you can customize your quad to how you feel.
Yeah, and just like we were mentioning earlier, they're always coming out with updates. And recently they added a bunch of new quads, some new motors. They're always coming out with new motors that are either replicas or very similar to real motors in the industry, which is pretty cool. And you can give them a try. You can test them out for yourself and see how the different flight experiences, depending on like different size props, different size motors, different kinds of setups. That brings me to the next point, which is physics. Like, how real does a simulator feel? And I will say I've been flying simulators for a long time, all the way back to like Flight Simulator, like way back in like the 90s. And I will say that simulators, there always is a little tiny hair of disconnect between a simulator and reality. But that being said, LIFTOFF is particularly my favorite because it is the closest to real world physics. It feels very, very real when you're in the air. And speaking of which, one of the tips that I've learned, you have to shift your mindset from you're flying a simulator to you're flying an actual quad. So in other words, pretend like you are really flying your $500 quad and fly it like you would in real life, because it's really easy, even if it's subconsciously, to know that you're on a simulator and you can do whatever you want and just fly like a madman and do like crazy stuff. Fly it like a real quad, and that's how you're really going to get good at different types of flying. So a lot of times I'll go out and I'll say, okay, I'm gonna set a timer, I'm gonna fly for 5 minutes and just do low, high speed, low altitude flying and just get really good at flying low to the ground. Okay, next time I'm gonna fly for 5 minutes and I'm gonna get really good at doing snap rolls. 100% roll, see if I can stop it at level with the horizon, and just do that for 5 minutes. Same thing with power loop. I'm going to try to power loop this thing nonstop until I can get it. And that's how I've learned you really, really get to hone your muscle memory. And it's crazy when you do power loops for like a half hour and then you go out and you fly your real quad for the first time, it just like clicks. It's just like, oh my gosh, like this is awesome. Fantastic. I can power loop now, you know? And so like that's my recommendation if you are looking at getting simulators. That's not just FPV simulator, any kind of simulator. You have to get into the mindset that you're really flying. You're flying a real quad.
Exactly.
Like get in the mindset, if you crash, you might be out $500. And you start to fly a little bit differently than if you would just like start a game and just like see what the craziest thing you can, how high can I go? Like, That's fun too, but if you're really trying to use this as a tool to get better, those are just a couple tips that I've learned have really helped me.
If you want to just go have fun, simulators are also a great way to go have fun and not have to worry about changing your props and going and buying another $500 quad. Because at the end of the day, it's about how much time can you get on your quad. And once you get that time and then you start feeling comfortable, that's when you start honing your skills inside the simulator again, so that you become out in the real world and fly like a boss. You know?
Yeah, we never recommend taking any hobby too seriously. We do recommend having serious fun though. So to recap, who would you say like a simulator like this would be for?
Well, I mean, for sure, first and foremost, beginners. I mean, you're looking at anybody who wants to get into the hobby and wants to fly anything and everything. That's it. Beginners, boom. And for Alex, you're a pretty experienced pilot, and you also love simulators.
Yeah, I do have quite a bit of experience. That being said, I'm probably not as capable as I should be for flying so long. But I do like to have fun. And picking this up, I picked it up about 2-3 months ago, and I've been playing. And when I go out and fly, I have noticed a difference in my flying ability. I normally chase planes, and before that, that's pretty much all I could do, and that's all I wanted to do. But because I've been flying on a simulator, not only have I picked up new styles, I'm starting to do like freestyle a little bit more, even been dabbling and racing through some gates, but also an interesting thing is I have transitioned to pinching. I used to be thumbs, and now I fly pinch when I'm flying FPV. So it's a great way to experiment, try new things without having to stress about losing your gear.
That's right.
So that being said, like, this is a very good product at a very cheap price that can really benefit anyone. From somebody who hasn't even experienced the hobby before and happens to have a PS4 controller, you can give the hobby a try, which is awesome. And that's what we're all about. We're all about getting new people into the hobby to people who have a lot of experience. It's a great way to hone your skills and to take it to that next level without risking your gear, without taking as much time, and without having to worry about the weather.
So what you're saying is literally everyone.
Literally everyone. So all that being said, we hope this video helps you not only learn about LIFTOFF, because obviously you can tell we love LIFTOFF, but also just simulators in general. Simulators is a huge part of how to have success in the hobby, and that's not just with FPV and mini quads, that's also with line of sight quads. We've done, you can check the links below, we've done videos on other simulators in the past, specifically line of sight simulators where you're flying airplanes and stuff like that. It's a great way to get us early success in the hobby.
That's right.
And we want to thank you guys for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, obviously we would not be here. We do new videos like this all the time, 4 to 5 videos a week, all based around aviation, both real aviation and model aviation. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so.
We also want to thank Kevin and his whole team at Lucas Studios for making this episode possible, and also for everything that they do for the FPV community and for the hobby from pushing it forward.
Yes. If you guys play LIFTOFF, let us know in the comments below. And even if you don't, if you try different simulators, let us know what you're playing down below. If you do play LIFTOFF, give us some feedback in the comments down below, because I'm sure the LIFTOFF guys will be hanging out down there and responding to any of your guys' comments. So we want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.